Stop before you do your Instacart shopping. Listen, I just challenged myself to get up and actually shop my fridge, my freezer, and my pantry. And you guys, when my husband and my kids told me there was absolutely nothing to eat and I needed to go grocery shopping, I came up with over 10 dinner ideas that are wholesome, nutritious, and I know that they would love. So right now I'm going to show you one of those recipes that comes together literally in just minutes. What's up guys, Jen here, and I'm going to show you another way to use your swaps or small windows of opportunity and get a delicious meal for you and your family in under 15 minutes. Now today I challenged myself. I was going to sit down and do my Instacart order for later today or tomorrow, but I wanted to challenge myself to shop my pantry, my fridge, my freezer, and see what I actually had right here, right now, that I could put together a quick meal. And I came up with over 10 of them. So if you don't do that often enough, it is a great way to purge what's in your fridge, freezer, and pantry and use what you already have. You might be surprised. You might come up with literally weeks of meals. But in my case, I came up with a good at least week worth of dinners, and I'm going to show you one of those right now. So I am going to do a vegetable soup. Now, as an added protein, it's not necessary because you're going to get a ton of great nutrients in the soup, but I do want to add a little bit more of a protein element, so I'm going to use canned lentils. Yes, apparently there are canned lentils. I don't know, I have never really seen them, but again, when I was shopping for, the apocalypse, I loaded up on all canned goods and I found canned lentils. And my kids actually love lentils, so I grabbed that. I'm going to be using that today. You can use any protein that you want. You could add another sort of canned beans, or you could use, if you have leftover, say shredded chicken or ground turkey in your fridge, whatever it is, use what you want. If you are using a raw meat, make sure you brown it before adding it into the crock pot, which is what I'm going to be using today. So let's talk more doing. I'm going to move you down so you can see what I'm doing and what the ingredients I'm using. I'm literally throwing everything into my crock pot, setting it on low for the rest of the afternoon into the early evening so we have soup for dinner. So here we go. I am going to start with really the only fresh ingredient minus some herbs that I had in the fridge. Everything else is going to be frozen or come from a can, which you've heard me probably say it before. It is okay if it is frozen or canned. Obviously, you want to look for non-GMO, organic if you can afford it. And then when it comes to sodium, you want to look for low salt or no sodium added, if at all possible. So I'm just going to do a quick chop of this celery. Now I would typically love to add a raw onion into my soup, but because I know my children and I know that onion is not one of their favorites, at least for one of my kiddos, I'm going to use onion powder to get me the flavor that I'm looking for without having to actually have chunks of onions in my soup. Almost there. About chopping off my fingers. Okay. There we go. Bring my crock pot right here and just add that celery right in. Now, for my other components, I'm going to use a bag of frozen corn. If you have canned corn, use that. Make sure you drain your corn before you put it into the crock pot. I'm also going to add probably about half of this bag of, frozen cauliflower. I actually love to use frozen cauliflower in some of my shakes for my kids. There's a really great one. Actually, I'm just gonna add it all. I'm adding the whole bag. There's a chocolate one that I love to make them that actually has frozen cauliflower. I also have a huge bag of frozen broccoli that's about half full. So I'm gonna go ahead and add most, if not all, of that broccoli. It's actually one of my kids' favorite veggies. I know I'm always safe when I use broccoli. And broccoli really will cook down. So if the volume looks like a lot, you know, it tends to soften up and shrink. Now for my cans. As I said before, I have a can of lentils, which is just, I don't know, maybe you use these a lot. Don't think I've ever in my life used a can of lentils, which, you know, I use canned beans all the time, just never lentils. So I just drained that real quick, and I'm gonna add that into the crock pot. And like I was saying earlier, you really want to try to control the sodium. I have 2 cans of, and I love that they're already pre-sliced, so I don't need to slice them. You want to look for the non-GMO as much as possible. These were not low sodium or no salt added. So I did check the label, and indeed, true to form, the sodium is pretty outrageous. So the good thing is the stock that I'm going to use I did not add any salt to it. And I obviously will really be light-handed on any salt that I add to the soup just because these are so high in sodium. But I'm also draining them, so I'm going to be losing a lot of that sodium through the liquid that they're sitting in as well. So I'm just going to drain these real quick. You know, this is what happens when your husband tells you to buy 2 grocery carts worth of canned goods, because you just never know. But thank you, sweetheart, because now I've got some great dinner ideas. I'm just gonna do some fresh cracked pepper in here. Probably the equivalent to like a half a teaspoon. And like I had mentioned before, since my kids aren't huge fans of onions, I'm gonna add probably about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder, and I'll taste that and see if I want to add any more later on. And then just because I have it in the fridge and I don't want it to go bad, I'd like to use it up. I've got some fresh thyme and some fresh parsley. It's around the holidays, so you know you're probably going to be having some fresh herbs that you're not going to use up. So soups are a wonderful way to do that. Obviously you can also freeze them in a little bit of water or olive oil in ice cube trays and save them for situations like this, for soups or sauces. But right now I'm just going to chop some of this up and put it right in my soup. It adds just such a nice flavor. It really does. Spices and herbs are such a great way to add flavor without adding a lot more sodium to your dish. Okay, I'm gonna add that in. And now for the liquid component, I, after the holiday, just cooked down some bones and made myself a homemade chicken stock. You can obviously use any jarred or canned stock from the store, whatever you like. Again, you want to make sure you're looking for low sodium or no salt added. And I did not add any salt into this, so it's very low sodium. Other than the salt that was already on the chicken when it cooked. But all right. Now it's not topping my, let me see if I can bring this over here for you. As you can see, the water level is not over the vegetables, but those vegetables will cook down. I will probably add a little bit more water and some seasoning as it's cooking. For right now, I'm just gonna stir this really good. I'm gonna drop a bay leaf in here, and I'm just gonna let it cook on low for hours, checking it every once in a while to see if I need to add a little bit more liquid to it. but it already smells great. Hasn't even started cooking, and I'm excited. This will probably last us days. So if you know your children and you know your hubby or your spouse, make sure that you incorporate vegetables that you know they're gonna eat. I know in my case, with my littlest one, there's probably gonna be a vegetable that she's not gonna want. I simply pick it out. It's that easy. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't make 3 different soups to accommodate them. Pick it out, or just make sure you're using ones that you know they're going to love. That's it, guys. This took minutes, and we're going to have a really healthy, well-rounded, nutritious dinner. And as always, if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see the next video when I post it.